Hello, YouTube. Hello. So today I'm going to talk about Wikipedia, and what I'm going to talk about is what I think about it. And this is not just saying whether it's good or bad, but its impact on society. So I'm going to be treating this in the same way that I sort of treat things like the attack on Pearl Harbor, terrorism, and that sort of thing. Now, first thing to note, so Wikipedia, in case you don't know, and I think most people know, but it's an online encyclopedia. So essentially, it's written by, in theory, anyone in the world who can add little bits at a time and create articles which are then added, tweaked, deleted a little bit, changed a little bit until we get accurate information. So that's what it is. And it's written primarily in English and it's based in USA, but it's actually been translated into just about every language in the world. So that's what Wikipedia is. Now, if you're going to look at Wikipedia, you may know that certainly at the moment, if you do a Google search or on anything, most of the time it prioritizes Wikipedia links. So if you do a Google for example, Fox, it'll give you a Wikipedia article on foxes. Probably. I haven't actually check with foxes, but you do it on pretty much any topic. You do it on Osama bin Laden, it'll tell you the Wikipedia version of Osama bin Laden. And that's essentially what that is it's acting as a news agency. It's acting as a media. Now we have Facebook, of course, everybody uses Facebook. We don't trust Facebook. What we see on Facebook can be complete nonsense. But people trust Wikipedia. People use it in book reports, they use it in news articles. People say things based on facts, perhaps I should say facts, from Wikipedia. And they do that on TV news, radio news, newspaper news, and blogs and all sorts of things. So if they're not sure of the facts, they look on Wikipedia, they say, well, that must be what the facts are, and then they use that. If they are sure of the facts, they won't use Wikipedia. And sometimes, in a lot of cases, the facts on Wikipedia are not the facts. And I'm going to go into that. So the issue is, now, I don't know, I'm not sure of the name of the James Bond movie that I'm thinking of, but there was one where the James Bond villain was in control of all or most of the world's media, so TV news, newspapers, and radios. And in fact, there are people that have control of multiple media empires. Rupert Murdoch is one, and a lot of people became terrified, scared that people like that would be able to decide what truth we're hearing. They'd be able to truth change the truth to suit whatever they want. So you can never say anything against Rupert Murdoch in a Rupert Murdoch paper, and you can never say anything against any aspect of his interests, anything that doesn't conform with his worldview or what he wants you to believe is true. And that's the same is true with Wikipedia. So we haven't had a fearmonger about Wikipedia. Nothing that's been successful. There has been about, I mean, certainly that James Bond movie made us think about Rupert Murdoch, and we're going, wow. And I mean, some people have said about, I can't remember what the Jewish family's name is, but it's on the tip of my tongue. But yeah, so there's other people out there that are in control of a lot of different things. So Wikipedia is definitely doing that. There's no disputing that Wikipedia are extremely influential for internet. And as we become more and more reliant on the internet for our news, for our truth, for our facts, Wikipedia becomes increasingly more powerful. So the question then is Wikipedia being responsible with this? Now, it's not something that we can just automatically assume that they're irresponsible. I mean, if you look at Rupert Murdoch and his newspapers, are they responsible? I think most people would say they are. And that's just, it's difficult. I don't have enough knowledge or information to know that they're not, or to know that they are. It's not an automatic thing to say just because you could your truth's changing, that therefore you are. So if we look at Wikipedia, and I've mentioned in other videos that on certain topics they're ridiculously inaccurate, such as the Pearl Harbor situation, and they've just put false information in there. They're assuming that the old version is the truth, and they won't let you. So if you go onto that particular article and you try to insert some of the declassified information, which they're most certainly allowed to put in there, they'll delete it. They won't allow you to put it in. And if you try to put it in as facts, they'll probably ban you from the Wikipedia. And that's a reality, not just on that topic, but on pretty much any topic. And so where there's situations where people have lied for some reason, and Wikipedia have entrenched in that lie for several years, or perhaps their entire existence, they will not allow you to put anything in there. And if you try to prove it, they will ban you. They will make it seem like you're the most evil person in the world. And that's what they do routinely. So, and this is one thing, if you look at the people that they ban, and I've seen what motivations for it, they're not people that are disruptive. So if you go onto Wikipedia and you open up a page and then blank it, or you put in something stupid like you say Melissa McCarthy's fat, I apologise, I shouldn't have used her name, but I mean, if you said somebody is fat, somebody's ugly, somebody's whatever, well, they'll reverse it. You might get a little warning saying, "Hey, thank you for your test edit." Not let you go. But you could do that 50 times. If you do that 50 times, they'll give you a 1-day block. And then you'll have back on, and as if nothing's happened. But if you went in there and put in accurate information about something where they're lying, such as on Pearl Harbor, and you can put it as highly referenced as you want to. If you put in accurate information about that, they will not only delete it, they'll delete it so badly as if nobody has ever seen it. They'll say some terrible thing about you, and then they'll block you for life. And it's about a range of topics. And if you look at the people that they're blocking, that they're banning for life, that's the reason, because they're people that are telling the truth about things that Wikipedia doesn't want you to tell the truth about. So for another example, if you went to, and we know that, and I'm not going to go into this, but we know that we found out the location of Atlantis, that it was actually a real place, and it was in the Sahara Desert, what is now the Sahara Desert, in Mauritania, a place that they call the Richat structure, RICHAT. You can look this up. It's undeniable proof. It's not on Wikipedia. You type in location of Atlantis, it's not there. So you could go there, and I think there were something like 500 people that tried to put that in there, that's the location. And anyone that put facts about it got banned. So they banned like 100 people for putting factual information about it. So they want people to believe the lie. And the lie is, it's not just the lie that Atlantis is a myth, but it's also the lie that is not the location of it. And that is the location of it. And I mean, I haven't seen proof of what happened in Atlantis, but I think realistically, if you look at it as a historical location, the one that we found, there's nothing exciting about it. It was just a place that fell into the sea. And when the sea levels changed in the Great Flood, and we know the Great Flood happened, that was 10,000 years ago. But in the enormous amounts of historical evidence as proof that the Great Flood happened. Now, we don't know that Noah and an ark took 2 of every animal on there. That might be an exaggeration, but we do know that the flood happened. And we do know that Atlantis fell in the Great Flood. I mean, you just look it up. You got little circles. Some people call it the Eye of the Sahara or the Eye of Africa. And that's it. And Wikipedia will not let you mention that. And I could go on the list of the thousands upon thousands of issues where Wikipedia lie, but suffice to say, there's a lot of them. And there's a general theme of the types of things that they lie about. I've obviously mentioned 9/11. There's no mention of China or any of the three theories that I went over that are the only three theories that make any sense at all. So they've got no mention of China, they've got no mention of Iraq, and they've got no mention of the possibility that the 8 people were just doing it by themselves. They've got no mention of any of that in there. They do have the obviously false conspiracy theory there, barely mentioned, just to say, oh, this is false. Well, it is false. But it's almost to say that's the only objection to the official story. And if you look at any historical issues, it's not just controversial ones. Like you look at things about the JFK assassination and they hide things. You look at, just about any historical event. They've got things about George W. Bush that are false, and they've got things about his father. They don't mention the terrible things that his father did in Cuba and South America. That's not just not mentioned. I mean, they're well known what he did. It's well known. I mean, he was in the CIA. He did some things that made international headlines, and I'm not going to go over them because just in case they are in Wikipedia and just in case I've remembered them wrong. But there are a lot of things that they're not mentioning. They haven't mentioned things about Australia's politicians, about Bob Hawke, about what was his name, John Howard, and they're missing things. They've put things in an inaccurate, a false light, not just an opinion, but things that are blatantly false, such as how they view the Children Overboard saga, how they view the lots of different things. The GST, the introduction of the GST is falsely described in Wikipedia. And so what you've got is that anything that's important, Wikipedia will generally lie about it. So anything old that's historical, that's old at all, or that's new, or that's current, they will lie. And they will lie for a particular aim. And there's a trend of how they're lying, and it's essentially speaking, it's to push what the American government wants you to believe, and that's what they're pushing. Now, if you're in a foreign government and they want you to push something else, they might allow that to happen if it doesn't interfere with what the American government say. So obviously, with the Children Overboard and with the GST, the Australian government has become involved with that. And so you've essentially got pages that, far from being unbiased or accurate, they are deliberately inaccurate and pushing particular government lines. Now, every government in the world, in theory, has influence over a Wikipedia article, which it seems silly. I know it sounds silly, but essentially what you've got is that Wikipedia is a playground for the world's intelligence agencies, and the entire website is disinformation. It's all false, and they'll have elements of truth in there, but the bulk of it will be false. It's deliberately false. It's not because somebody blanked a page. It's not because somebody snuck in some inaccurate outfit. Actually, what it is that they have people there, and not necessarily the administrators, but people there they stalk pages. They get a little note, you put in something truthful, so they're going to change it. And they do it. And they have a line where it's changing it. I mean, I'm sure the CIA love Wikipedia. They're excited about it. They're like, wow, we get to push our lie along there. And that's, I mean, I think CIA is one of the major people, or perhaps NSA. I suppose it's probably more NSA area than CIA because it's digital. But I mean, maybe other names of different intelligence networks in USA that are influential with it. I mean, look, ASIO would be as well in Australia. They would have their little parts. They're making sure that Children Overboard thing is displayed in the way they want it to be. Unless, of course, the CIA or NSA take over and say, hey, we're going to change it for you because we don't want you to have that there. I mean, where's the mention? If you go into something about Kevin Rudd, and we know that he was deposed. We've seen in WikiLeaks, he was deposed because of Hillary Clinton. Where's the mention of that in Wikipedia? It's proven. It's a proven fact. He was deposed because I mean, I shouldn't blame Hillary Clinton. Barack Obama told Hillary Clinton to do it, and it was because Kevin Rudd was too friendly with China. Kevin Rudd was Australia's Prime Minister, very popular guy, very well loved. And then he was suddenly deposed. They put Julia Gillard in there. And Hillary Clinton was in Australia first of all, telling Kevin Rudd, you stop this alliance or we will get rid of you. And then when he said no, telling Julia Gillard, well, we'll make sure that you're the new Prime Minister as long as you do what we want you to do and cut the ties with China. Now you might say, well, we're friendly with USA, so we shouldn't be being friendly with China because they're USA's enemy. But that happened, and that was publicised. It was in newspapers. It was verified. Not in Wikipedia. It's not in Wikipedia. And it was a significant event, not in Wikipedia. It's a well-known event. I mean, you can Google and you can find about 1,000 articles about it. Wikipedia will pretend that it didn't happen. They'll pretend that Kevin Rudd wasn't liked by his party. And I'm sure most of the people watching this, if you're Australian, you'll probably think that that's what happened. That's not what happened. It's not what happened at all. You think, oh, well, he wasn't popular. No, that's not true. So there's a number of lies on Wikipedia, and it's about those issues. Now, if you go and look up something about, I don't know, a TV show, Lucifer, a TV show we liked, it'll be pretty much accurate, right? So it'll be accurate about The Simpsons. It'll be accurate about Twilight, I expect it, because I don't really pay that much attention to it. But those things that are just a bit of fun, it'll usually be accurate. It's not necessarily accurate about Michael Jackson because he had a court case and all of that. It's not necessarily accurate about Oscar Pistorius when he, particularly to do with his trial. It'll be accurate about everything except for the trial. But about the trial, it's quite inaccurate. During the Oscar Pistorius trial, they had a woman there who was making sure that everything was done in her image. She wasn't even an administrator. She was just making sure that everything was written in her way. And I can talk about individual Wikipedia administrators. There are times when I cared. There's one at the moment. He's Neil N. I think he banned about 50 people per day. He's done that for about 3 years. And every person he bans, and these are permanent bans, he does this because they're adding truth. And that's the only reason he ever banned people. There's a hint that they're going to be adding something that's truthful, that's not their kind of truth. He'll ban them. And I'm just picking his name because he's easy and he's the most obvious one. But there's a lot of them. And so I don't actually care if this is, and probably isn't Jimbo Wales' big idea. I'll tell you what happened when I started a particular website about 25 years ago. I had people from the CIA come in and they said to me, I have to do it in a certain way. I didn't want to do it in a certain way. So I sort of tricked them, in a sense. I let them access the site and it looked like it was the real site, but it was a special version of the site just for them. And, that happened. I mean, that website only had 1,500 people come. It wasn't as big as Wikipedia. Wikipedia gets 1 billion. But you get that. I got that within about a month or two. I mean, I was opening something that potentially could have been a really popular site. It wasn't. I suppose I'm just not very good at expressing myself. But that was the criteria. Now, has Facebook had that? Probably. Has MySpace? Almost certainly. Twitter? Probably. And they're all being controlled by these intelligence networks, effectively by the US government, who's controlling all the internet. And they won't control individual sites. They won't. I'm sure that it'd be unlikely for them to come and look at this YouTube video that nobody's watched. But would they go to YouTube? I don't think they would, because YouTube doesn't have the ability to change truth. But they might. But they certainly would for Wikipedia, and we know they did. So it's nothing surprising. It's not a conspiracy theory to suggest that. It's not alarming. It shouldn't be alarming to anybody to hear that. Now, I have another little website I started up, which is very unpopular, and I think we have 50 people that use it regularly. We haven't had any intelligent network involvement because it's not really influential. It's just a little game I made up, and it really does depend. So I know some people say, "Oh, well, I've never been contacted by the CIA." I mean, firstly, you might not notice if you don't know what you're looking for, but secondly, it's got to be a certain type of site to get that kind of influence, to get that people involved. I mean, I watch cricket websites; they don't get that because it's a sport. So it's going to be when you're in the position to change the truth, they'll make sure you change it in a way that they want it to be. And when you're in the position to influence people, they'll make sure you influence people in the right way. And I mean, we could argue that that's their job. We could argue that Wikipedia, well, they didn't have a choice. And you could argue that, well, what else could they do? And that's a fair comment. What else could they do? Once they've decided to set something up in this way, it's always going to be controlled and manipulated by intelligence agencies. And I mean, Encyclopedia Britannica wasn't. But look, the thing is, when we had Encyclopedia Britannica, when I was younger, I mean, Wikipedia's only been around since 2003, I think. So when, like, I was at school in the 1980s, 1990s, and we had encyclopedias, and you'd have the World Book, you'd have Encyclopedia Britannica, and they would say different things about the same topic. So when you look at them, they weren't neutral. So the encyclopedias, what they'd do is they'd write in the back and they'd say a list of people, and they'd say which articles they contributed to, or they'd say this person did this type of article. Sometimes at the end of an article, they'd say contributed by this person with this person and this person. So then what you could do is you could look up who those people were, and you could find out what their bias was. Because everybody has bias. I have a bias. You say, oh, that makes me terrible. It doesn't. When you have a bias, you can account for that bias. You can say, well, I'm Australian. I've had certain experiences. I have certain beliefs. That makes me biased in a certain way. Now, you could do that for Encyclopedia Britannica. You could do that for World Book Encyclopedia, and you could do that for any books that anyone's ever written. And there are still books that come out now, even though we don't really have paper encyclopedias anymore, thanks to Wikipedia. But we still have books come out that act as reference points. People say, oh, well, this is my experience when I was captured by ISIS or held prisoner by Al-Qaeda or whatever. And we'll look at that, and sometimes they won't be factual accounts. They'll be their opinion. Some people will lie. And there'll be reasons for them to lie, and we'll distrust their evidence. But we can always account for it. When you look at Wikipedia, what can you do? They have an edit history. Do you really? I mean, I've sat down and worked out for a few articles who inserted the lies, and I've proven that. And I actually went at one point for one particular article, and I wrote down everybody who changed what, and I kept a list of it. And I went back and looked at, because I put this on a website, I went back and looked at all of the differences for who changed what. And the people at Wikipedia had oversighted most of them. So they hid who changed it. Now, I spent probably 200 hours over that to prove this. More than half of the differences were deleted from their system deliberately to hide who was doing what. And my references to people who had done it to prove who they were and to prove why they were lying in this way were deleted. So my original article looks stupid. And that's the thing. Even if you look at the history, they have the power to change it. They have the power to change their own revision history. They can change their revision history. They can change history. You understand how significant that is? I mean, we talk about, I'm sure anyone who's been to school probably knows that there's been book burnings at different points in time. The Romans did it. The Germans in Nazi Germany did it. Joseph Stalin in USSR did it, and a number of other regimes have done it. And what has happened there is that they've perverted history to a significant degree. I mean, I don't know if people are aware that Julius Caesar destroyed the library at Alexandria in Egypt, and he did that to change the truth, to hide the truth of whatever it is. I mean, I've heard the speculation that that was to cover up the existence of Atlantis, and the fact, well, I don't know if it's a fact, but the theory that people from Atlantis moved to Egypt and they built the Great Pyramids before they were destroyed themselves, that they were worshipped as pharaohs. Anyway, if that's true, and again, that's a topic that I'm not an expert on, but if that's true, well, we've got book burnings of the greatest library ever made. That was, by reports, had actual books that were about life before the flood. You know, and the flood that destroyed Atlantis, the flood that was in the Bible. There was life before that, and there were books written before that. And they were in the Library of Alexandria in Egypt. Survived. And presumably, I don't know if they really were, but they destroyed it. That's book burning. And that's what Wikipedia doing. So if you think of Wikipedia as a good place to research your projects or to research your news reports, you're probably wrong. It's probably a perverted place that's about as inaccurate as you can get. And if you're using Wikipedia to look up which Simpson episodes did what, probably fair enough. But arguably, if you look at the wikis, the separate wikis from Wikipedia, so on the Simpsons wiki, the South Park wiki, the Life is Strange wiki, they're all fair enough. They're good. They're good quality. I appreciate them. If you look at Wikipedia with the important articles, probably the important one, if I see one that's accurate, I'll be shocked. It's not just one that's inaccurate. They're all inaccurate. They're all false. And they're deliberately false. It's not because one person, I snuck in and I had to change things. No, because they'd never be allowed to change things. And, I mean, maybe they could 2 days after they opened, but not now. Some people call it a cabal of a group of people that are pushing a particular aim. Now, arguably, Jimbo Wales is not part of that cabal. That group of people are intelligence agents. They're NSA, they're CIA, the government. So if any of the administrators, and we don't know who they really are in terms of real life people, the proportion of them would be intelligence agents, government people. They would be, and not just for USA, of course, but it is based around an American point of view. Wikipedia is America-centric. It's based around the point of view of USA, mostly. Even, obviously, the Italian version is probably not. And in fact, if you look at what's on the different language versions of Wikipedia, they're very different. They have different points of view. The English one is the main one, and that's the one that has the most perversion. So arguably, Wikipedia as a concept was always going to be controlled by intelligence networks, and therefore it was always going to be useless, I think, and damaging. I can't blame the intelligence agents for doing that because that's their job. It's part of the whole thing, and I've gone over why they do that. I can't blame individual governments for it. I think when they were looking at doing Wikipedia, and I can blame the people that did it, and whether you say, oh, well, that was Jimbo Wales by himself or Jimbo Wales and Larry Sanger, I don't care who it was. I don't want to get into that. I talked to Larry Sanger at some length, and I don't like him. I think he's a jerk. I talked to Jimbo Wales at a little bit of length, like online, obviously. He's pretty much a jerk as well. I think they're both jerks. Larry Sanger is more honest, but he's an honest jerk as opposed to a dishonest jerk. I don't think either of them are better than the other. They're not evil. I'm not saying they're evil. That's very different. You're not like terrorists that go off and do stuff. But there's no real benefit to Wikipedia. If you look at positive versus negative, there's benefits to Wiki. to your South Park wiki, your Simpsons wiki, your whatever wiki. But there's not really a benefit to an attempt to use the formula for Wikipedia to create important articles. If they deleted and promised never to create again all of their important articles, arguably Wikipedia would be a good thing. But they're never going to do that. So I think it's not just that it gives power to. I mean, the intelligence agency already has power. That's not the issue. It's what's the thing? Perverts truth, which is always a bad thing. It's truth changing. That's always a bad thing. I mean, does anybody appreciate and say, "Oh, thanks Adolf Hitler for burning all those books in Germany. Thanks Joseph Stalin for burning all those books in Russia and the Soviet Union"? Does anybody say that? Does anybody say, "Oh, thank you Romans for when you had your Roman Empire and tried to pretend that all of your gods, which were really Greek gods, were your gods"? I mean, that was one part of the history changing that the Romans did. I mean, does anybody appreciate that? Do they appreciate the destruction of the Library of Alexandria? I mean, especially if they'd had, as is heavily speculated, and we've got the whole story of Atlantis and Herodotus, his map, based on the Library of Alexandria, as proof that they had information in pre-flood times. Do we appreciate that that's all been destroyed, so now we can't prove any of it? No, we don't. So what Wikipedia is doing is they're destroying truth. And I'm not going to call them evil, but I'm going to call them damaging to society. I think if you use them for anything important, I think you're going to be getting false information. Unfortunately, a lot of the other information that's out there is based on Wikipedia, so it will be the same as Wikipedia, particularly news reports and the like that are saying, "Oh, well, 20 years ago, remember this happened." Well, 20 years ago that didn't happen because you're basing that on Wikipedia or on something else that's based on Wikipedia. And so your news reports become less accurate. It's not just you students that are lazy and just use Wikipedia without checking your facts. It's also news reporters that do it. And a lot of people do this stuff. So I mean, I still look at things on Wikipedia seldom. Sometimes on the important issues, I try to see just how inaccurate they are. And sometimes on less important things where they are accurate. If I want to know how good this movie was, they're probably going to be accurate about that because intelligence agencies don't care about lying about what happens in a movie. So if you look up a movie, a film, you're not going to care. I mean, even most science, I won't say all, but most science, they're just raw facts. So they're just going to put truthful things in there. It's just really on history. And by history, I also mean things happening yesterday, last week. On historical things, they're going to be lying a lot. I'd say almost all of them. I haven't checked every single possible article, but they're even inaccurate about the reporting of last week's terrorism attack in Melbourne. They're called a stabbing attack. Extremely inaccurate. It was a car bomb. I mean, you've ignored that part from the whole thing. It's not very inaccurate because we didn't have a cover-up to do with that, but it's still a little bit inaccurate. Even with that last week, it's still lying. And so will I say never use Wikipedia? I'll say never use Wikipedia for a school project. Never use Wikipedia for anything you're reporting for news. Not for any of the important articles. What should you do instead? But you should look at Wikipedia, look at something else. If they seem to be the same, find a different source. Because that's probably not. That's probably a lesson that it's false. And also perhaps just figure it out in your head. What does it make sense? If it's saying something that's impossible, it's not true. If it's saying something that doesn't make sense to you, well, look for something else that does make sense. And of course, if you do know the truth about a certain thing, well, you can choose to try to put it into Wikipedia, prove me wrong. I bet you'll be banned because that's why they ban people. Particularly if you run into someone like the Neil M person. There's a very good chance that he's evil. I haven't met him, but based on his online activities, I think there's a very good chance that he's evil. I suppose that'd be for people. But yeah, I mean, who would do that? Just go around changing the truth and banning 50 people a day or whatever it is. Who would do that? I mean, he's not paid. What's the other excuse for it? He's getting his rocks off. You know, not a serial killer, a serial banner, a serial destroyer of truth. He's not the only one doing it, but he's probably the worst. So, you know, there's something wrong with your head if you're doing that, and there's something evil about you. It's not killing people. It probably won't kill people. But it's very bad. So that's my view on Wikipedia, and strangely enough, some people have called me Wikipedia as my nickname because they say, "Oh, you know so many facts, you may as well be on Wikipedia." I say, "Well, I don't make stuff up. I don't change the truth. I'm not who you hit for the Google search. So, I'm not Wikipedia. I don't agree with Wikipedia. I think that when they had the idea to do this thing, it's online encyclopedia. I think, perhaps Jimbo Wales is just so happy with all the money he's getting for himself, all the fame. But realistically, if I was the one that had created Wikipedia, and there was a possibility at a certain stage in my life when I was a bit naive, I might have done something like that. If I did that and started to get all this manipulation, all these changes, I'd probably cut out all of the types of articles that they're doing, or make restricted access so that such people couldn't access them. And maybe just say, well, you guys can fiddle with the South Park articles because that doesn't matter. And if that couldn't happen, I'd shut it down. So I think that we have to ultimately put the blame on Jimbo Wales for not shutting it down. He knew. He still knows what's happening. And I'm sure in his heart he's thinking, well, I'm getting all this money, all this fame at the expense of damaging humanity. And you've got to think about that. There are people throughout history who have made money and power and fame at the expense of humanity. And that's what he's doing. He's not making the world a better place. He's making the world a worse place. He's removing facts. He's distorting facts. He's book burning. He's truth changing. And I know that he distances himself a lot more now than what he used to, but he's ultimately responsible. Maybe Larry Sanger is too, at least to start with. But I think he left before he got to a level where this sort of thing was real. So, I mean, I have no desire to make an opposition to that, because if I made an opposition to that, it would inevitably fall victim to these people. Paper encyclopedias don't. Even Encyclopedia Britannica Online doesn't. They don't fall victim to that because they've got a more robust system. And I know there's a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy thing that's in UK that's not vulnerable to this kind of thing. Wikipedia is. It's very vulnerable. It's an unsafe system. And it's one that we know has been manipulated by intelligence networks. I mean, in saying that, CIA puts out, well, they used to put out a World Fact Book. I used to look at that. Very useful to see demographics of different countries, and I'm sure, I counted for their bias, knowing that it was written by the CIA. And I knew that some of the things they were saying were complete hogwash. But you can account for their bias. Even if I don't know the individual author, I know that they're CIA. So when they're saying, this particular terrorism there or whatever, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt. So I'm saying, well, you've got a vested interest in lying about it. So I might not believe that part of it. But I prefer the CIA World Factbook, which I've bought a few times. I prefer that to Wikipedia. I prefer Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy one, HHG2, however it goes. I prefer that, and I prefer Encyclopedia Britannica Online. I prefer anything to Wikipedia. Wikipedia is not robust. It's vulnerable to these attacks, and it has been overrun. And so my suggestion, if you're Jimbo Wales there, is sell everything, put out to all these wikis for all the South Parks and all that, and then shut the whole thing down. Now, you've done a lot of damage already, but you've already made your money. Take your money and run. Shut it down. Don't let that be your legacy. Don't destroy the Library of Alexandria. Don't let all of our past history be forgotten because of your greed. And for anybody there who loves Wikipedia, you're entitled to love something. You can see the good. I see the good in you. Yeah, this. I have to say that. Some people that can't see the nose in front of their face. So that's it. That's Wikipedia. There's not much else to say about that. Other than it was a really bad idea. It's failed. And when it succeeded in making Jimbo lots of money and fame, it's failed in being good for society, bad for society. And particularly the English version, particularly, I've already talked about it, the main important issues, pretty much all false. So if you want to read up something, put it false, bit of information in your school assignment, your newspaper report, and contribute to dumbing down society and making us all gullible and stupid, use it, because that's what you're going to get. Okay, so that's it. All right, see you then.